These carnivore spring rolls are crispy, golden, and completely grain-free. The outside has a nice crunch, while the inside is loaded with juicy pork, shrimp, and crab. It's everything you love about a spring roll, rebuilt for the carnivore lifestyle, with all the flavor and none of the carbs. For the wrapper dough, we'll be using 3 cups of ground chicken or finely chopped chicken with the fat removed, 2 tablespoons of collagen powder, 1 tablespoon of bone broth powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 ounces of cream cheese, 1 teaspoon of unrefined salt, 1 large egg, and optionally 1 to 2 tablespoons of egg white protein powder for added strength. And for the spring roll filling, we'll be using 1 pound of ground pork, a pound of raw shrimp that's finely chopped. This helps the shrimp blend evenly into the filling so every bite has a smooth, juicy texture. 3/4 of a cup of well-drained crab meat. Here I'll be using crab claw meat. It adds a slightly sweet, rich seafood flavor that balances the pork and shrimp nicely. 1 large pastured egg, 1 tablespoon of sugar-free fish sauce that also has no flavoring, 1 tablespoon of bone broth powder, a tablespoon of tallow or melted butter, half a teaspoon of unrefined salt, which can be adjusted to taste, and half a teaspoon of shrimp paste. Look for a clean shrimp paste with minimal ingredients and no fillers or additives. It's optional, but even a small amount adds a deep, savory flavor that really enhances the filling. To start, add the chicken to the food processor and blend until finely ground and smooth. Then add the baking soda, bone broth powder, and collagen. Next, add the egg white protein powder if you're using it, and salt. Blend everything until it becomes completely smooth and paste-like. Finally, add the egg and the cream cheese and blend again until the mixture is thick and fully combined. Just out of curiosity, what food do you miss the most from before carnivore? To make the spring roll wraps, we'll be using a tortilla press. This helps create thin, even sheets that cook up crisp and uniform. The goal is to keep the wraps as even as possible so that they set and roll cleanly. If you don't have one, you can press the dough between parchment with a heavy pan. Alternatively, you can also use a rolling pin to gently roll them out. Just aim for a thin, consistent thickness so that they cook evenly. And we'll be using 8-inch parchment rounds to make lifting and shaping the wraps easier without sticking. Here I'm using unbleached parchment to help reduce chemical exposure. And you'll need a container to place the wrappers on. I'll be using a ceramic baking sheet for this. And I find it most convenient to use a trigger release cookie scoop to keep the dough portions consistent and even. It also helps the wraps cook at the same rate. We'll set aside half a cup of the raw dough to use later for sealing the spring rolls during assembly. The remaining dough will be used to make all of the wrappers. Now let's start making the wraps. This is where the dough turns into thin, flexible sheets that will hold the filling. Take your time with this step so each wrap comes out smooth and even. Place about 1 tablespoon of dough between 2 parchment rounds, positioning it slightly off-center to match the direction of the tortilla press closing. This allows the dough to spread out more evenly as pressure is applied. It also helps prevent the dough from thinning too much on one side and reduces the chances of thin spots later that can tear. Press firmly and evenly so that the wraps stay thin and uniform. If needed, rotate and press once more to smooth out the edges. Once the first set of wraps are pressed, we'll move on to cooking them. This step sets the structure so that they're strong enough to roll without tearing. Gently drop the rounds into hot water and let them sit for about 10 to 15 seconds, just until the surface starts to firm up. Once ready, lift them out carefully, letting any excess water drip off, and place them onto a baking sheet to cool. You'll then repeat this process until all of the wrappers are cooked and ready for assembly. Once they've cooled slightly, they'll be flexible and easy to handle. At this point, gently peel the parchment off the wraps and lay them flat on a plate until you're ready to use them. Stagger them slightly on the plate so that they're easy to pick up one at a time. This also helps prevent them from sticking together. And it's a good idea to keep them loosely covered so that they don't dry out before assembling. If they firm up a bit, you can always warm them slightly to make them more flexible again. Taking a moment here makes the rolling process much smoother. And I'll reuse the parchment for the next batch. This helps cut down on waste. To make the filling, we'll combine the ground pork with the finely chopped shrimp, the drained crab meat, bone broth powder, tallow or melted butter, shrimp paste that has been dissolved in 4 tablespoons of bone broth, egg, salt, and the sugar and preservative-free fish sauce. To mix the filling thoroughly, I like to use my hand, and I'll be wearing a blue nitrile glove while doing this. It helps me feel the texture and make sure everything is evenly combined. You can also use a spoon or spatula if you prefer, but hands tend to work the fastest. Now it's time to assemble the spring rolls. We have our wraps, the filling, and the sealant all ready to go. Place one wrap on the cutting board or plate. Make sure the surface is clean and dry so the wrap doesn't stick while you work. And I'll be using a 2 tablespoon measuring spoon to portion out the filling. Spread a bit of the raw dough to the edge of the wrap. Then add about 2 tablespoons of filling near the bottom third of the wrap. Let me know if you would add different ingredients in the filling. And you can use a spoon or fork to shape the filling. Now fold the sides in over the ends of the filling. Fold the bottom up and roll everything tightly into a spring roll shape. Keep gentle but firm pressure as you roll so that the filling stays secure and the wrap doesn't tear. Repeat this process until all of the spring rolls are assembled. To cook the spring rolls, I'll be using enameled cast iron cookware. It holds the heat evenly, which helps the rolls brown consistently without hot spots. It also avoids nonstick coatings while still providing a naturally slick surface once properly heated. We'll be using beef tallow as our fat for cooking the spring rolls. You can also use bacon grease or ghee, depending on what you prefer and what you have on hand. For these carnivore spring rolls, we'll pan fry them first and then finish them in the air fryer for extra crisp. This 2-step method gives you a golden exterior while keeping the filling juicy inside. We'll fry each roll for 3 to 4 minutes per side, rotating until each side is crisp and golden. Let me know in the comments how strict your version of carnivore is. Are you doing 0 carbs or more animal-based? Once fully cooked, we'll remove them from the heat and place them in the air fryer for about 3 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. For spring rolls, do you prefer crispier wraps or softer ones? And here we have the finished spring rolls, golden, crisp, and perfectly cooked. The outer wrap has a beautiful crunch while still staying light and delicate. These smell incredible straight out of the pan and air fryer. When you bite into them, the filling stays juicy and flavorful. I'll leave a link in the description below with the full recipe card and nutritional breakdown. Let's cut into one of these so you can see the inside. That pork, shrimp, and crab filling is tender, moist, and packed with savory flavor. For carnivore dipping sauce options to pair with these spring rolls, head over to carnivorecollections.com. I've shared a few simple ideas there that work really well with this recipe. If you enjoyed this carnivore spring roll recipe, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more carnivore-friendly creations. And let me know in the comments if you tried these and what filling you'd use. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next recipe.